The Anomalist. A short story by Damien. Part 1. The Call. As the light filtered through the shades over the windows, and I awoke, I felt like something wasn't right. Last time this happened, my mother disappeared just a few days after I had the feeling. I rose. It was a solemn Tuesday. The sun peered over gloomy clouds in the far distance, and they were rolling in. I got dressed, and went down the stairs to leave my apartment to see if I could figure out why I was feeling this uncanny dread. Since about a month ago, things have been going strangely. I would feel like every time it rained, or there were downcast clouds in the sky, they seemed to be warning me of something, as if drawn to me to give me bad news. I never knew what Mother Nature was trying to tell me, but I intuitively felt like there was some kind of meaning to dark clouds and the way my emotions felt whenever they would come near me. It was as if I was becoming harmonious with Mother Nature herself. I felt genuinely like I was becoming atmokinetic. Rain always felt luring since I was a kid, and I remember since I was 5 that a strange anomaly of it being around me often was hard to go unnoticed. A period of months of sunshine was between, however, a time where I felt out of place, and only recently did I see the clouds rolling in again over the horizon of our city. Anyways, the first thing I noticed when I grabbed my apartment key was that the air was bitterly cold and blew my door wide open the moment I unlatched it. A few blocks down the road everything seemed eerie, the pigeons were frantic, the debris in the streets seemed out of place and most people were indoors, which was uncommon for my city. As I was walking, the lightning and rain finally rolled overhead. I had my raincoat, and I was curiously following my instinct to see what was causing this eerie feeling, which was uncannily growing stronger and stronger. The air seemed thin, and the beads of rain were like needles on my face. I arrived at a road that led outside of the city, a common route to go for walks, even myself. It was in the woods where trees would surround both sides of the path, and it spanned for miles and miles. Even just arriving at the road I could feel this feeling of dreadfulness in the very fibers of my soul. I walked for many hours of into day, but finally after the storm began to settle and the sky began turning to dusk, I felt like whatever had been drawing me had to be something I would find nearby. Surely enough, I saw an abandoned house, broken and dilapidated. I decided to fall asleep there in the cover from the sprinkling skies, in case it began to downpour again. But curiously, as I slowly and cautiously approached, I saw as I peered through a window a girl inside. Her hair was short, and her body was facing the other way. She seemed to have only been about 4.5 feet tall. As I got closer, I tempted myself to speak to her, but I was fearful, for the events leading up to the moment of seeing the young girl felt very ominous. Stuttering, I only was able to speak about a word and a half. Hello? Comma. Before she noticed me, her head tilted to the side, and she began slowly turning my direction. "It is so nice of you to join me," she said. But as she said this, I could not help but notice the streaks beneath her eyes. She looked like a doll, with half-physical features, and was holding a stuffed bear. I felt as the fear began sinking into my chest deeper and deeper. The clouds above began downpouring again, as if reacting to my emotion. The thunder and lightning would gradually get more and more intense. "Why are we here?" I said, for I couldn't think of anything else to say. It seemed like she was expecting me anyhow. She didn't say anything, and began crying, and suddenly disappeared without a trace. Part 2. The Panic. Cautiously I wandered to look around inside the house to see if I could find her, or find out what the hell was going on. I started getting sleepy, though, and all I could find were dolls of various kinds suspended on the top shelves near the roof surrounding the house. impatiently, I managed to sweep broken boards and shattered glass from around the ground to make myself a small clear area to rest. Though it did make me nervous falling asleep there, my eyes were much too heavy to ignore their need to sleep. I awoke suddenly the next day to a bright sunny sky and birds happily chirping to the soft tune of the subtle wind. Inside the house was still a bit crooked, and I felt like all the dolls were staring at me, so I quickly left the broken, dilapidated building. I saw around some of the flowers in the bushes a hummingbird, and I observed carefully, captivated. Then I began to pace the border of the perimeter. Much to my surprise, I saw the young girl once more. In the light of day I noticed I made no mistake for interpreting her body as half human, half doll. Again, she was facing the opposite way, but this time toward off in the distance. I couldn't help trying to see what she was looking at. In the distance there appeared to be large gravestones, and I asked her what they were for. Every month, like a moth in the face of a bright light, I beckon someone here to live in the dimension of death. Their souls are mine for when I am hungry. I cast the remains of what is left into the ground, with their last words inscribed upon their stones. You will be my next fateful victim. As she said this, a cold fog began permeating slowly along the ground, and she chuckled as she once again immediately turned her head towards mine and began running towards me with an evil expression of guiltless rage. I stumbled a little into the opposite direction, before I too began running as fast as I possibly could. Once I caught myself in balance. I wanted to make it back to the woods where I could hopefully find some kind of hiding place. My heart rate must have been like the hummingbird just before, and with adrenaline pumping through my veins, I have never been so terrified. Every moment I'd look back she was a bit closer than she was before. By now once again it had begun raining. Honestly, I wasn't sure if this was a good thing or not. I didn't know if this was her ability to lure me to herself or even if it were something conjured from my own imagination. Suddenly, though, it dawned on me. It couldn't have been if I had been seeing these omens since I was a kid. It must have been an affinity. Immediately when I had this epiphany, like a moment of eureka, I heard the loudest crack of lightning I have ever heard in my entire life, followed by screaming. And I stopped to catch my breath, and observe in hope of what I think happened. Surely, when I looked behind me, I saw a fried fiend and I caught a glimpse of many souls escaping to eternal freedom. Upon observing the body, the doll girl seemed apparently completely dead. I made sure of it by stabbing her with a pocket knife, and I sighed in relief. Part 3. Closure. Not long after I caught my breath, I saw a butterfly, and it landed gently on my hand. I felt as if I was given a kiss by Mother Nature herself, like she had needed my help to conquer this malevolent anomaly that has probably been plaguing the city for a long time. I also remember my mother. I presumed since she went missing, I must have saved her soul, and this gave me a feeling of relief in the very fibers of my soul. I eventually began walking home, which once again took the whole day. That night I felt at peace with life, and have never slept more soundly than on that night.